Good morning, gardeners. Here we are back in Byron, New York, in my off the porch garden, as I call it. It's August 8th. It's about 75 degrees and a bit overcast today. So I thought I'd give you a little tour of this garden. I debated whether or not to do that since it's one of the beds I've not been able to work in today. But I do enjoy this one. It's where I sit on the porch and I enjoy it. And Molly's in the garden with us again. Say hello, Molly. Okay, she's giving us the cold shoulder. But it is in the summer, this is the highlight, is the phlox. And if you saw my phlox spotlight, you know how much I love phlox. So these are pretty much ones that have self-sown from the few that I planted. So you can see the wide variety in at least the color of pink in phlox, and there's some white. And I also have a nice stand of purple down under the black walnut tree. So phlox are much loved by pollinators, and actually Phlox paniculata is native to the United States. And it has been bred for a variety of cultivars. And talking about pollinators, I've been seeing a lot of, and he's not going to come out now, carpenter bees in here. Oh, he's working this plant. Well, he's down in there. There he is. So carpenter bees have a shiny butt, and they're large. I was wondering what large bumblebee I had in here, and that's what it is. There is some Joe Pyeweed over here in the corner, and that is a cultivar, one of the shorter ones, and I can't remember the name of it off the top of my head. And I've got a lot of wild goldenrod in here that I have not planted. Queen Anne's lace. And I love the brown-eyed Susans. This is Rudbeckia triloba. Now, they just sort of appeared in my yard, and they seed themselves around to wherever they are happy. And they have decided that they're happy in this garden. So I've learned to recognize them so I don't weed them out in the spring. There's that, I think that's a flower fly. And we've got a honeybee over here. And I had a yellow swallowtail float through earlier. And the monarch butterflies like this. I've also had the giant swallowtails in here. So yes, a lot of phlox. I've got a juniper gold cone. I decided when I was putting this garden in I needed some winter interest because I do look at this garden in the winter. And that's actually done pretty well. There is a 9-bark in there being engulfed by the Virginia creeper. And I have black walnut trees all over my property, so they're always popping up. So it's a struggle to keep up with the seedlings some years. And they're hard. If you just chop them down, they just grow back. More goldenrod that's self-sown. This is probably Canadian goldenrod. So I think after it blooms in the fall, I'm going to have to rogue it out because eventually it will take over, and instead of phlox bed, I will have a goldenrod bed. Now this bed also has an issue with, can't think of the name of it, quackgrass. And quackgrass is hard to get rid of because it has long underground, forget if they're rhizomes or stolons, but they're very pointy and they will actually drill through bulbs and other roots and things. And any little piece that you leave in the ground starts another plant. So it's very hard to eradicate. And I've been dealing with it in this bed probably since I created the bed. This is a true tiger lily that's out of bloom. It's a yellow one. Sometimes the hummingbirds land on the little stems. So in this part I do have, well, a porcedum that would probably like some more sun. End of the season daylilies. So this is a little bit of a daylily bed. Most of these are yellows or oranges. Little peach. Now that goldenrod might actually be a cultivar. It looks a little bit different than the others. And I know I planted a dwarf one in here. This phlox is totally out of place since everything in front of it, since it's blocking everything. That's actually the front of the bed there, so it's blocking the view of these things. That's a self-sower. This is actually wild azuratum, or hardy azuratum, excuse me. So it will get a pretty purple flower on it, like our annual azuratum, but it's perennial, and it does spread, and it will bloom later in the fall. I have some iris in here, some Asiatic lilies. I love Queen Anne's lace. You know, it's one of those things, is it a weed, is it a wildflower? Well, in my garden, it's a wildflower. The pollinators do like it, and I like it because it's nice and open and airy. It self-sows, it's a biennial. We have some lamb's ears. And another problem I have are these forget-me-nots that go to seed and get over everything. If I could get rid of the quackgrass, I'd have a nice bed of Angelina sedum, which I like as a ground cover. And in the fall, maybe we'll come back and look at my colchicums, because I have, if you're not familiar with colchicums, they're a fall blooming corm bulb. And I have the bed edged in them. So this is actually the front of the garden. I was on top of the garden before. And I have some great garden art. That one was made by fellow master gardener. And the butterfly I picked up in a nursery and repainted it to go with my purple theme. So we've got some more lamb's ears. I should cut this back, but I've let it go to seed, and actually I let it flower because I have noticed that the bees like it. Now I'm seeing some little beetle in here. Let's see if I can get one on the flower. Not sure what that is, but it is a beetle. And then back to the phlox. I mean, I love this one with the purpley eye. I've got some phlox that aren't even blooming yet. So I have phlox that, I actually have one variety in here that starts end of June. And then they kind of start opening and they build to a crescendo here in August. And we've got another honeybee in here. Oh, the hummingbirds also love this bed. I have my hummingbird feeders on the porch, so I enjoy watching them. I'll just give you a sweep. So this isn't a huge garden, but it has been overtaken by phlox. And then anchoring the bed, I have a large magnolia, which has decided to be something between a shrub and a tree. I want to say this might be Elizabeth, and it does bloom in the spring, but it throws out blooms in the summer. And I have another purple magnolia that does the same thing. Now my white magnolias, my star magnolias, do not do that. Oh, and here we have a few more phlox that have self-sown. That one's got a little bit smaller flower on it, blossom. All right. Oh, and I've got some lilies here. They were basically hanging on the ground. So I tried to prop them up, but one of our storms knocked them over. So I'm gonna have to get in there and move these bulbs in the fall. The phlox are just pushing them forward and they just can't stand upright. And they're a tall lily. They're probably 5 feet tall. So I see another pollinator in here. Oh, he's gone. But again, I think it's a flower fly. It has 2 wings. And there's a pretty pink one in the back. There's a tall one that hasn't even opened yet. Oh, maybe we can get this. Nope. There's a carpenter bee. Oh, he's coming in for a close-up. All right, well, gardeners, don't be shy if your garden isn't perfect. Oh, I forgot about this Rosa Sharon that's struggling in there. I'm surprised it's still alive. And there's another daylily. That one's actually buttered popcorn that blooms earlier in the season. So as I was saying, gardeners, don't be shy. Every garden has its warts and weeds, but we just tend to overlook them. So we'll get back into this one at some point and get the grass somewhat under control and the goldenrod out. And you wouldn't believe me, but there is actually a path in here. So, and then in the spring, I didn't mention, this garden actually has a lot of bulbs in it. I have a lot of the small bulbs and daffodils to give me some bright spring color. All right, well, enjoy the rest of your day.